In the shadowed back rooms of speakeasies, amid the jazz-fueled euphoria of the 1920s, Americans drank. They drank to forget, to rebel, to celebrate life in defiance of a government that had declared their vice a crime. With the ratification of the 18th Amendment and the enforcement of the Volstead Act in 1920, the United States launched into one of the most ambitious social experiments in history: Prohibition. The manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcoholic beverages became illegal across the country. But the thirst for alcohol did not vanish. It only went underground. And in that hidden world of bootleggers and bathtub gin, a chilling story unfolded. One where the very government sworn to protect its citizens began poisoning the very alcohol it had banned, knowing full well people would drink it anyway. The idea was rooted in frustration. Prohibition wasn't working. Despite the legal clampdown, Americans found creative and often dangerous ways to keep the liquor flowing. Industrial alcohol, used in paints, solvents, cleaning products, and fuels, became a key ingredient in illegal booze production. Bootleggers had figured out how to renature this industrial alcohol, stripping away the chemicals added to make it undrinkable and converting it back into something passable, if toxic, for consumption. This enraged federal officials, especially those in the Department of the Treasury's Prohibition Unit. They believed harsher measures were needed. If they couldn't stop Americans from drinking, they could at least make drinking deadly. And so, quietly and with bureaucratic precision, the U.S. government took a dark turn. It ordered manufacturers to increase the lethality of industrial alcohol by adding toxic chemicals such as methyl alcohol, commonly known as methanol. Unlike ethanol, which is the type of alcohol safe to consume, methanol can cause blindness, brain damage, and death in even small doses. This wasn't accidental or vague policy. It was deliberate. The logic was brutal. If the illegal booze supply became dangerous enough, people might stop drinking it out of fear. As Prohibition Commissioner John F. Kramer put it, the law was not to be evaded or set aside for anybody. The idea was simply deterrence through horror. But it wasn't theoretical. It had real victims. By 1926, hospital wards in major cities were filling with cases of alcohol poisoning. In New York City alone, over 400 people died in that single year from tainted alcohol. Emergency rooms were overwhelmed with patients suffering from symptoms of methanol poisoning, vomiting, convulsions, blindness, coma. Some died within hours. Others were left permanently disabled. And yet the government did not back down. In fact, it doubled down, mandating more poisons, stronger mixtures, and a growing indifference to the cost. The press began to catch wind of what was happening. Newspapers printed scathing headlines, Uncle Sam's poison policy, and government to blame for deaths of drinkers. Journalists and doctors spoke out. One of the loudest voices was Dr. Charles Norris, the chief medical examiner of New York City, who accused the government of deliberately killing its own citizens. He said, "The government knows it is not stopping drinking by putting poison in alcohol. It knows what bootleggers are doing with it. And yet, it continues its poisoning program. It is only a matter of time before this indifference to human life becomes a national scandal." But public opinion remained divided. The temperance movement, which had helped to bring about prohibition in the first place, defended the policy. They saw drinkers as lawbreakers who were simply suffering the consequences of their choices. To them, death was a regrettable but necessary price to restore moral order. But the numbers were impossible to ignore. Historians estimate that by the time Prohibition ended in 1933, at least 10,000 people had died from government-poisoned alcohol. Some believe the number is far higher, hidden in misdiagnosed deaths and buried in forgotten graves. And what did it accomplish? Little. Drinking continued throughout Prohibition. Bootlegging empires thrived. Organized crime flourished. Figures like Al Capone became household names, richer and more powerful than the lawmen who chased them. The poisoned alcohol policy failed to deter most drinkers. If anything, it made them more reckless. In a time of flappers and jazz and rebellion, danger only added to the allure. When the 21st Amendment repealed Prohibition in 1933, the poisoned alcohol program quietly vanished. There was no public reckoning, no apology from the government. The deaths were swept aside, buried under the celebration of legalized liquor and the economic revival that followed the Great Depression. But the truth remained, lingering like the aftertaste of bad moonshine. The U.S. government had knowingly and deliberately used poison against its own people in the name of morality and law. It remains one of the darkest and least known chapters in American history. A tale of good intentions turned deadly, where ideology triumphed over compassion, and where the line between justice and cruelty blurred beyond recognition. A time when the real danger wasn't the drink in your hand, but the hands that poisoned it.